I always believed in honesty. I believed in trust. I believed that once you made vows in front of God, family, and friends, those promises were unbreakable. But apparently, some people treat vows like pieces of paper, easy to rip, easy to discard. My name is Sophie, and I never imagined I would be the one to discover my best friend's betrayal, or that it would shake my entire life apart. It all began on a quiet Tuesday evening. I was scrolling through my phone, sipping tea, when I noticed a message pop up on my husband's account, one that was not from me. Before I explain, let me set the scene. I had been married to Ryan for 6 years. He was the kind of man everyone envied, successful, caring, handsome in that understated way that made people trust him instantly. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I thought it was strong. And then, she came back into our lives. Her name was Claire, my best friend since college. Or so I thought. Claire had always been charismatic, charming, and dangerously persuasive. She was the kind of person who could make anyone like her trust her and follow her without realizing it. But there was something about her charm that always made me slightly uneasy, a sense that she could cross boundaries without remorse. And she did. That evening, I had been looking for Ryan's laptop charger when my eyes landed on a photo in our shared cloud account. It was an innocuous folder labeled Friends Trip. Curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked it. What I saw made me drop my tea. There she was, Claire. And she wasn't alone. Ryan. Not in a casual group photo or some friendly hug. No, this was far worse. The picture showed them at a hotel room, Ryan's arm around her waist, her head resting on his shoulder, eyes closed as if in perfect intimacy. My vision blurred. I sat down heavily, clutching my chest. No, I whispered. The worst part? The timestamp. It was from 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Ryan and I had been married for 6 years, living in the same house, sharing the same bed, and yet here he was, betraying me with the one person I had trusted the most. I couldn't breathe. My world had been flipped upside down in an instant. I needed answers. The next day, I confronted Claire. I drove to her apartment, trying to calm my shaking hands. My mind raced, thinking of what I would say. Would I scream? Cry? Accuse? I knocked. She opened the door, smiling like nothing was wrong. Sophie. Hey, it's been a while. I stepped inside, my voice trembling. We need to talk. Now. Her smile faltered slightly. Talk about what? I dropped the bomb. The photos. The hotel. You and Ryan. 2 weeks ago. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw panic flicker across her face. That doesn't mean what you think, she stammered. Doesn't mean what I think? I shouted. Sophie, look at me. He's your husband, and you slept with him. Don't lie. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to? I couldn't stop myself. You betrayed me. You betrayed our friendship, our marriage, everything. She looked away, ashamed, guilty. Sophie, it was a mistake. One mistake. One mistake. My voice cracked. You think that fixes it? After that confrontation, I left her apartment in a daze, driving home without realizing where I was going. My thoughts were a storm of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I couldn't believe that someone I had trusted implicitly could do this. And then, the thought hit me. What about the detail I had seen in the photo? One small but significant thing, the watch on her wrist. It wasn't just any watch. It was a gift I had given her for her birthday last year. My gift. My trust. And she had worn it while betraying me. I had proof. A tiny, seemingly insignificant detail, but enough to confirm everything I had feared. That night, I confronted Ryan. He came home from work, tired, unsuspecting, carrying groceries. I dropped the photos on the counter in front of him. Explain this, I demanded. He froze, staring at the images. For a moment, I thought he might deny it, but then, his face went pale, and his shoulders slumped. Sophie, I can explain, he began. Explain? Explain sleeping with my best friend? My voice was rising, tears burning my eyes. It just happened. I didn't plan it. I didn't plan it? I interrupted. It happened? Ryan, it's been 2 weeks. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. I was confused. She came to me, and I didn't know how to stop it. I never wanted to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. Never wanted to hurt me? Really? Because it looks like you've been enjoying it. The tension in the room was suffocating. I felt numb. My husband, the man I had trusted with my life, had betrayed me with someone I considered my closest friend. The woman I had confided in, laughed with, cried with, had slept with my husband. And the small detail, the watch, proved she had done it with full awareness, wearing my gift like a trophy. I realized then that the betrayal was deeper than I could have imagined. It wasn't just infidelity, it was deliberate, personal, and cruel. I spent the next few days in a haze, avoiding Claire and barely speaking to Ryan. I knew I had to act, but I didn't know how. Confronting him had only brought anger, not resolution. Then came the message, a text from an unknown number. You think you know the truth? You have no idea what's coming. It didn't take much to figure out who it was. Claire. And I knew in that moment, this was far from over. Because if she was bold enough to sleep with my husband and taunt me afterward, then the next move she planned could destroy everything, my marriage, my reputation, and maybe even my life. The day after I received that threatening message, I felt like a different person. The Sophie who laughed freely, trusted completely, and believed in love without conditions. She was gone. Instead, I became a version of myself I didn't recognize, sharper, more cautious, more aware of every look, every word, every small gesture. I couldn't ignore the message. I had to find out what Claire wanted, what she planned next. I started small. I checked every corner of my home, every device, every social media account. I noticed a few strange things right away: deleted messages, unfamiliar logins, an odd pattern in Ryan's phone activity. Whoever was doing this knew what they were doing. They weren't sloppy. It was deliberate. And I realized that if I wanted to stop her, I couldn't act emotionally. I had to act strategically. Later that evening, I met my friend Mia, someone who had always been like a sister to me. She didn't know about Claire yet, but she had instincts sharper than most. We sat in a quiet cafe, her brow furrowed as I explained everything: the photos, the betrayal, the watch, the message. Mia's eyes widened. Sophie, this is serious. If Claire is threatening you now, you have to protect yourself. But how do you confront someone like that without making it worse? I have to catch her in the act, I said. Not just prove the betrayal. I need to prove her intent. Then she won't dare cross me again. Mia hesitated. Do you mean spying on her? Yes, I said firmly. If I don't, she'll continue to manipulate Ryan, and maybe even others. I can't let her get away with it. That night, I stayed up planning my moves. Claire had always been predictable in her arrogance. She loved showing off, loved taking risks when she thought no one was watching, and I would use that. I set up a small, hidden camera in my living room, one that would capture anyone entering without detection. Then I checked Ryan's phone again. There it was, another message from Claire. Meet me at our spot tonight. Don't bring her. It's important. My stomach churned. Their spot, that hotel where I had first discovered them together. I knew I had to follow. I couldn't let her know I was onto her yet. I dressed carefully, blending in as a passersby. I didn't want Claire to recognize me. I parked a block away from the hotel and watched. Moments later, Ryan arrived. My heart pounded, but I stayed hidden, camera ready, phone recording. Then Claire appeared. She looked as confident as ever, smiling, laughing, completely unaware that someone was watching her every move. Ryan met her, and the two of them walked inside together. I held my breath. Inside, I could hear muffled conversation through the slightly ajar door. You have to be careful, Ryan whispered. I know, Claire replied, her voice low and firm. But we can't wait. If she finds out before we finish, everything falls apart. My heart stopped. Finish? They weren't just cheating. They were planning something. I tried to get closer, but I tripped slightly on a loose stone outside. My heart raced as Claire's eyes darted to the window. She didn't see me. Yet. I needed evidence, and the tension was unbearable. The hours passed slowly as I recorded everything. I heard them laughing, whispering, making plans. Then Ryan said something that made my blood run cold. I've already covered the bills, the accounts, everything. Once she suspects, it'll be too late. Claire, we just have to be patient. That's when I realized. This wasn't just about an affair. This was about control. They had been planning something behind my back for months. Financial schemes, manipulations, maybe even more. And I had been blind. When they finally left the hotel, I followed them discreetly. Ryan drove Claire to a quiet, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. I parked a safe distance away, hiding behind some trees. They disappeared inside. I debated going in immediately, but I knew that would be dangerous. I had to call for help. I dialed Mia. Mia, I whispered. They're inside. It's bigger than I thought. They've planned something at the warehouse. We need the police. Her voice shook. Are you sure? That's risky. I'm sure, I said. I have to stop them before it's too late. The next hour felt like a lifetime. I watched as Claire and Ryan moved inside the building, checking the perimeter, setting out papers, and making calls. I could see them coordinating, confirming something critical. Then I saw it, the detail that made my blood run cold. Claire pulled out a small stack of envelopes. I couldn't read them from my distance, but I knew. I just knew they contained evidence of their scheme. Maybe financial, maybe legal, maybe even personal. And Ryan. He wasn't hesitant anymore. He was fully complicit. My hands shook, but my mind sharpened. I couldn't let them get away with it. Not now. I retreated, finding a safe place to call the police. They're at a warehouse on Willow Street, I said rapidly. 2 people. Man and woman. I have them on video and audio. They're planning something illegal. The dispatcher's voice was calm but firm. Stay hidden. Officers are on their way. Do not confront them. I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. As I watched from the shadows, I realized something terrifying. They hadn't noticed me yet, but the moment they did, this could get violent. And then Claire's voice carried over the empty lot. If she finds out before we finish, we'll have to act fast. I froze. Before we finish, I realized that what Claire and Ryan were planning wasn't just a betrayal of trust. It could destroy everything I had worked for. And if I didn't act fast, I might not survive to expose it. The warehouse sat in eerie silence, looming like a shadow against the darkening sky. I crouched behind a stack of crates, my phone in one hand, the other clutching my small camera. My heart thumped so loudly I was sure they could hear it. Claire and Ryan had no idea I was watching, or that I had already called the police. But I knew the moment of truth was near. I reviewed the footage I had captured on my camera. Every movement, every whisper, every interaction was evidence. Claire was confident, dominant in her posture, smirking as if she owned the world. Ryan was nervous, but he followed her every command. I couldn't believe my eyes. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was systematic. They had mapped everything meticulously, our finances, our social circle, even my routines. Then I noticed a folder Ryan had brought out from his briefcase. Emily Carter files. My stomach sank. Those were my personal documents, bank statements, account numbers, even insurance policies. They had been planning to use them for something, though I didn't know what yet. I inched closer to get a better angle on the papers. That's when I overheard Ryan whisper something that made my blood run cold. Once she finds out, it's over. Everything is set. Claire, we can finally move forward without her interference. I froze. Without my interference? The words confirmed my worst fear. This wasn't just a petty affair or a moment of weakness. They were plotting to manipulate, possibly ruin, and completely remove me from their lives. Claire laughed softly, a chilling sound. Don't worry, Ryan. Everything will go exactly as planned. By the time she figures it out, we'll be untouchable. I felt a wave of rage mixed with fear. My hands trembled as I gripped the camera tighter. I couldn't let them succeed, but I also knew I couldn't confront them head on. Not yet. I needed a plan. As they spoke, Ryan pulled out another envelope and handed it to Claire. Make sure she doesn't see this, he said. I squinted to read the label. It said, Final proof, Emily Carter. My mind raced. Final proof of what? My financial records? A manipulated contract? Something worse? Whatever it was, it had to be stopped. I moved slightly, trying to adjust the camera angle. That's when Claire turned abruptly. Did you hear that? I froze. She didn't look outside. She scanned the warehouse quickly. I held my breath, praying she wouldn't find me. Probably just the wind, Ryan muttered nervously. Claire nodded, but her eyes flicked toward the corner where I was hiding. My heart raced faster. If she noticed, it could all be over. I decided to retreat slightly, but as I did, my foot caught a loose plank on the floor. It creaked loudly. Claire's head snapped toward me. Ryan, someone's here, she shouted. Panic surged. I bolted for the nearest exit, my camera swinging wildly. I could hear their footsteps behind me as Ryan shouted, Stop her. I ran toward the back alley, dodging crates and debris. My legs burned, my chest heaved, but I couldn't stop. Then headlights flashed, followed by the blaring sound of sirens. The police had arrived. Ryan and Claire froze. Officers poured into the warehouse, shouting commands. Hands up. Step away from the papers. Ryan hesitated, glancing at Claire. She smirked. But that confidence faltered as the officers surrounded them. I ducked behind a crate, clutching the camera. I couldn't believe it. I had survived the moment, and they were finally being caught. One officer grabbed Claire's arm, pulling her toward the exit. Ryan tried to resist, but several more officers tackled him to the ground. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and endangering someone," one officer shouted. I stepped out of hiding, trembling but victorious. The camera in my hand still held the footage, the undeniable proof of their plan, their betrayal, and their intent to harm me. The police escorted them to their vehicles, and I could see Claire glancing at me one last time. Her smirk was gone, replaced by a cold, calculating glare. "You think this ends tonight, Sophie?" she whispered as she was led away. I felt a shiver down my spine. Back home, I sat in the living room, exhausted and shaking. Mia was beside me, holding my hand. "They're going away for a long time," she said softly. "You did the right thing, Sophie. You saved yourself." I nodded, but deep inside, a tiny voice whispered, "This isn't over." Something about Claire's glare. It felt like a promise. She'll come back. She won't rest until she ruins you completely. But for now, I had the evidence, the truth, and the knowledge that I was no longer powerless. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every word, every moment, every betrayal. And then it hit me, the small, almost insignificant detail that exposed everything. The watch she wore. That gift. That piece of trust. She had flaunted it while lying, manipulating, and betraying. It was proof not just of the affair, but of her deliberate cruelty. And I knew then that the betrayal wasn't just personal. It was intentional, calculated, and malicious. Even though Claire and Ryan were caught, a nagging fear lingered. If she had planned this meticulously before, what else had she hidden? And what if her next move wasn't against me, but against everything I loved? Even after the arrests, sleep eluded me. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind an icy weight in my chest. I thought I was safe, but a lingering sense of unease gnawed at me. Claire wasn't just reckless, she was cunning. Her glare that night had told me she had more tricks up her sleeve, and I couldn't shake the feeling that her game wasn't over yet. I decided to take matters into my own hands. The next morning, I started digging deeper. Ryan's betrayal had been shocking, but the more I uncovered, the more I realized how little I had actually known. The envelopes, the files, they weren't just about finances. They were about controlling every aspect of my life, every transaction, every social connection, even my daily schedule. Claire and Ryan had been watching, waiting for the right moment to strike, and I had been blind. I enlisted Mia's help. Together, we began combing through every document, email, and file Ryan and Claire had touched. Some of it was encrypted, some password protected, but nothing could withstand our determination. We found suspicious transactions in my bank account, withdrawals I had never made, transfers to unknown accounts, and payments labeled vaguely as consulting fees, but totaling tens of thousands of dollars. "They've been siphoning money for months," Mia said, eyes wide. "I can't believe it," I whispered. "All this time, and I didn't see it coming." Mia put a hand on my shoulder. "It's not your fault, Sophie. They were professionals at manipulation." Days turned into nights of relentless research. I also contacted a private investigator, someone who could track Claire's movements and uncover any connections she might have maintained outside the arrests. I didn't want to wait for the system to act. I needed proof, and I needed to act fast. It was then that the first warning came. A small envelope slid under my front door. No name, no address, just my handwriting inside, mocking me. "You think you know the truth, but the truth is only the beginning." I felt my stomach drop. Claire was still out there, or someone was acting on her behalf. That night, I installed additional security cameras around my house. I felt paranoid, constantly checking shadows, movements, and even the reflection of the streetlights on my windows. Every car that passed felt like it might be hers. And then, I noticed it. A black sedan parked a few houses down, engine running, headlights off. The figure inside stayed still for hours, watching. I froze. It couldn't be a coincidence. I called Mia immediately. "She's back. Someone's outside. Watching." "Are you sure?" Mia whispered, her voice tight. "I'm sure," I said. "I can feel it." Mia didn't hesitate. "Stay inside. Don't go out. I'm calling the police now." I retreated to the living room, my phone clutched tightly in my hands. The sedan remained silent, waiting. Hours passed. Then, the car moved. Slowly, carefully, like it had been waiting for me to drop my guard. I peeked through the blinds and saw a familiar silhouette exit the car. My heart froze. It was Claire. She wasn't wearing her usual flashy outfit. Instead, she had on a simple black coat, her hair tied back, eyes scanning the surroundings carefully. But her confidence, that same cold, unshakable confidence, hadn't left. She stopped at the edge of my driveway, pulling out a small device from her pocket. It looked like a USB stick. My pulse raced. She wasn't here for words. She was here for evidence. I grabbed my phone and dialed the police again. She's outside. She's trying to get something. Stay calm, Sophie, the dispatcher said. Do not confront her. Officers are on the way. I hung up and crouched behind the couch, clutching my camera. My hands shook uncontrollably. Through the window, I watched Claire carefully move toward the back door, trying to avoid the cameras I had set up. I realized something terrifying. She knew exactly what she was looking for. Minutes later, a knock on the front door startled me. Emily, open up. It wasn't Claire. It was Ryan, my husband. He had posted bail earlier that day. His face was pale, his eyes frantic. I had to come, he said, voice shaking. She's dangerous. She's here to finish what she started. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal all over again. Ryan, you brought this into our home. I didn't have a choice. Claire. She's planning something worse than you think. She's not just after the money. She wants to destroy everything, us, our lives, everyone we care about. Before I could respond, there was a loud crash from the back door. Claire had broken the lock. She stepped inside, device in hand, eyes gleaming. Hello, Sophie, she said calmly. Did you miss me? Ryan and I froze. She smiled, walking slowly toward the living room. You have something I want. That little recorder. The proof of everything. Hand it over. I realized then that the game had escalated. She wasn't just cunning. She was relentless. Claire was inside my home, and the recorder, the one piece of evidence that could ruin her, was still in my possession. If I didn't act fast, everything I had uncovered would be stolen from me. And this time, I might not get a second chance. Claire moved closer, her gaze fixed on me. The device in her hand glinted under the living room light. She thought she had me cornered, thought she had won again. But she underestimated how far I had prepared for this moment. I took a deep breath, forcing my fear into calm, steadying my shaking hands. Claire, I said softly, you should have stayed away. She laughed, a low, cruel sound. Stayed away? Emily, I've been planning this for months. You think I'd let a little recorder stop me? I glanced at Ryan. He was tense, frozen, guilty, and afraid. He hadn't realized how dangerous this had become, even for him. I had to act fast. Claire took another step toward me. Give it to me, she said, her voice sharper now. You know it's the only thing keeping you safe. Hand it over. I don't think so, I replied, my voice calm but firm. She raised the device, threatening. You're making this worse for yourself, Emily. At that moment, I pressed a button on my camera, activating the live feed I had set up to send directly to the police. They were already on their way. You've already lost, Claire, I said, my heart pounding. Her eyes flickered with irritation and disbelief. What have you done? Live feed, I said simply. The police are outside. They've been watching everything. They know you're here, and they know what you've done. Her confidence wavered for the first time, but she quickly regained it, smirking. You think they'll get here in time? Before I could answer, there was a loud crash from the front door. Flashing lights illuminated the room. Sirens blared. Freeze. Police. Step away from the suspect. Claire's smirk faltered completely. Her hands trembled as she realized she had been outmaneuvered. I pressed the recorder into Ryan's hands. Take it. Protect it, I whispered. He nodded, finally understanding the stakes. I'm sorry, he murmured, almost inaudible. I never should have let it go this far. Claire tried to run, but the police had already surrounded the house. They moved quickly, restraining her, pulling her to the ground. She shouted, cursed, tried to resist, but it was futile. I just stood there, trembling, tears running down my face. Hours later, after Claire and Ryan had been taken into custody, I sat in my living room, exhausted but relieved. The recorder was still in my hands. Every confession, every plan, every malicious word, they were all captured. I finally had the proof I needed. I felt a strange mix of triumph and sadness. Ryan had betrayed me. Claire had tried to destroy everything I cared about, but I had survived. I had outsmarted them. The next few weeks were a blur. Police investigations, court hearings, lawyers, and endless paperwork. Ryan confessed fully. His betrayal laid bare in front of the authorities. Claire's calculated manipulation and plotting were exposed. Every financial scheme, every plan to ruin me, every deceitful act, it all came to light. I had won. But the emotional toll lingered. One morning, I found myself sitting by the window, watching the sunrise. The world felt peaceful, almost normal. And yet, I knew I would never be the same. Trust was a fragile thing, easily broken, almost impossible to rebuild. I whispered to myself, I survived. I survived because I didn't let fear control me. I didn't let betrayal define me. Then I noticed something on the table, a small watch, familiar. My gift. I held it in my hands, my chest tightening. I realized then that it wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the intentional cruelty, the way Claire had flaunted her deceit. But now, the watch was back with me. A symbol not just of the pain, but of the strength I had gained. I smiled faintly, tears slipping down my cheeks. I had been broken, betrayed, and threatened. But I had reclaimed my life. I had turned the tables. And in that moment, I knew one truth. No one would ever manipulate or control me again. Even though the danger was gone, the lesson remained. Betrayal can come from the people you trust most. But strength comes from facing the truth, taking action, and never letting fear win.